From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce. This is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, he wants to give a second chance at home ownership. We'll find out about a bill to help those of you who've gone through foreclosures or short sales. And my guest today on this important topic is the author of that legislation, Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
Well, he says he wants to create a pathway back home for those of you who've experienced foreclosure or short sales through no fault of your own. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you about this second chance legislation. We'll tell you about my guest's in-person advocacy efforts on behalf of those getting no help from lenders. And we'll tell you his take on news that a multi-billion-dollar fund set up in 2010 to help those facing foreclosure has used just 3% of its budget. Although Arizona in March ended Nevada's 5-year reign as the nation's foreclosure rate king, my guest says he still has his work cut out for him. His District 3 is tops in Nevada for foreclosure. Statewide, 60% of mortgaged homes are underwater, meaning they're valued at less than the mortgage owed on them. Now, Congressman Heck says he believes those of you who've experienced foreclosure or short sales due to the economic turndown deserve a second chance at homeownership. And that's why he's introduced the Second Chance at Homeownership Act. The bill creates a federal program within the Federal Housing Administration to provide 30-year fixed interest rate loans to certain individuals who have experienced a foreclosure or short sale. In order to qualify, participants must meet requirements. The biggies are: you cannot have owned a residence after January 1st, 2011 unless it's an inherited property, nor been delinquent on the rent for at least the previous 12 months, nor have been convicted of fraud in the past 10 years. Your net worth cannot be greater than $1 million, and you can't have strategically defaulted on mortgage in the past 10 years. And in a statement about his bill, Congressman Heck said, quote, "We need to do everything we can to help the millions of people who experienced a foreclosure or short sale due to the economic turndown regain their piece of the American dream." And your bill puts several protections in place to ensure participants can afford the new home and also requires a down payment. So tell us more how this bill would work.
Well, first, it's important to know that according to a survey done by the Nevada Association of Realtors, that the single largest reason for foreclosures in Nevada was the loss of a job. The second was a medical bankruptcy. So these are people that fell on hard times through no fault of their own.
Sure.
And were forced out of their homes because they could no longer make their payments. So the goal is to get them back into a home. They're now maybe back on their feet, they're renting a property. They've shown that they can make a rental payment on time for the previous 12 months. No other credit issues other than the fact that they had lost a job or that foreclosure short sale. Let's give them a chance at having that piece of an American dream, because the more people we get back into homes, the more communities will be stabilized, and the more everybody's property values will rebound. So it's good for the entire community.
Exactly. It's about more than putting a family in a home. You've told the press that the more folks that are in homes, the more stable the community and the stronger the overall housing market. Correct?
Right. We know that people that rent, they maintain their home because they want to get their security deposit back at the end of the rental period. But people who own a home actually improve it. They're going to go out and buy new furniture, new floor coverings, maybe have a landscaper come on, and so they help create more jobs in the community. And it takes one more brown yard or green swimming pool off the block, and that helps everybody.
Now, the payments cannot exceed the amount the buyer paid in the last 12 months for rental payments?
Right, but we want to show that they have the ability to make that monthly payment. And so if they have made a rent payment for the last year and their mortgage is no more than that rent payment, that should not be an issue for them. And we know right now, because so many people are being forced out of their homes and going into rental properties, that right now you can probably have a mortgage rate that's less than what you would be paying in rent anyway.
You know, you tried your best to make the down payment not too far out of reach. It's equal to 5% of the appraised value of the home, which sadly those appraised values have gone way down, but that might make the American dream in a lot more people's reach.
Well, it is, and it's actually a couple points higher than what the standard FHA loan is. And again, we're trying to make sure that we protect against potential secondary default. So there's a little bit higher down payment requirement, that 5%. The interest rate would be at market, which is a little bit higher than what the standard FHA rate is. And the mortgage insurance premium would be a little bit higher as well. All these things necessary to make sure that we guard against having taxpayers on the hook for a secondary default. But again, all of that has to be less than what their current rental payment is.
You got a good compliment. You know Blaine Johnson, the head of the Nevada Association of Realtors. He said your bill, quote, can only help our housing market and overall economy. And again, you've said before on this show that until jobs come back, the houses can't come back. But this is kind of your way of doing something to strengthen housing while we're waiting on the jobs to come back as well.
True. I mean, here people talk about economy, jobs, and housing as three separate issues. For us back in Nevada, that's really all one issue. It's a continuous circle. Mm-hmm. We've got to get our economy back so that people are back to work. Once they're back to work, they're able to stay in their home. And so I'm trying to approach it from a much more holistic approach than saying, oh, we're just worried about jobs or we're just worrying about houses. Because for us, we've got to tackle all three of those.
And you've made sure this is a 30-year fixed, correct?
That's correct. The no subprimes. It's a 30-year fixed rate loan, something to get that person back into a home, allow them to raise their family in a place that they can call their own.
You go home every week. What's the kind of response you're getting from the constituents you've talked to that have lost their homes?
Well, they're very happy to hope that this type of a program will be available for them. And in all honesty, this idea came out of from my housing caseworker back in the district office because there were so many programs out there for people who were in default. And she said, sir, what I don't have is a program to help people who've lost their home, but now could afford to get back into one. What can we do for them? And that's when we started looking at it and came up with this idea. Okay,
when we come back, are you trying to negotiate your loan rate and it's falling on deaf ears among your lenders? He's trying to help you get their ear. We're going to tell you how he's doing that right after this.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, brought to you by the National Mining Association, Caesars Entertainment, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, NV Energy, Western Lithium Corporation, the Frias Companies, the Nevada Mining Association, Skyline Restaurant and Casino, and the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of efforts on the Hill to help you Nevadans who've lost your homes in this rough economic climate. My guest today is Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Well, it's been estimated that 1 in 16 homes in Nevada has been foreclosed on. It's bad enough to lose your home. It's that much worse when your efforts to negotiate loan rates fall on deaf ears or are ignored altogether. Well, my guest says his office has been helping hundreds of Nevadans renegotiate loans to get payments lowered, but he got really frustrated that you homeowners don't get the response from banks that he as a congressman gets. So he recently brought the House Financial Services Committee to Las Vegas for a hearing on ways to keep homeowners from defaulting on and losing homes. Among those present were representatives of the mortgage and real estate industry, Nevada Foreclosure Mediation Program, and a federal credit union. According to a report in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, that mediation program has conducted nearly 16,000 mediations between homeowners and lenders, and more than 11,000 of them did not get foreclosed upon. But a program official told the paper that banks and other financial institutions have not been overly cooperative. My guest concurs. He told the press of his office's success in getting Nevadans' fixed rate loan rates dropped, sometimes dramatically. But he says his frustration lies in the fact that if his office calls the bank, the person's helped. While if the consumer initiates the call, often no help is given. He says one reason he hosted the hearing was to look for private sector solutions to the foreclosure crisis, less taxpayer-funded help, more private business help. And Congressman, what were some of the top ideas that came out of that hearing?
Well, it was very interesting to hold the hearing in Las Vegas, and the chair of the subcommittee, Congresswoman Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia, conducted the hearing. And as she was hearing the stories, you could hear her voice say, "Oh my God, I didn't realize it was this bad out here." Wow. Because of the stories that were being told. I mean, we heard from representatives of the real estate industry who had gone through foreclosure themselves. The gentleman was telling a story about how somebody had lost a home, and at the end he said, "This was my story." So it was happening to people in the industry themselves. And so the issue was, we have the most populous congressional district in the country, 1.1 million people in CD3 right now. So there's a lot of underwater homes. And it's impossible to make 1.1 million phone calls. And so that was the issue, is why, if we call, can we get something done when if the constituent calls, they get a runaround? And so that's what we wanted to bring out there at the hearing. We heard from one gentleman who said, on this day I got a notice that my mortgage had been modified. The very next day I got my notice of foreclosure. So even within the bank, because two separate areas are working, one on modification and one on foreclosure, they're not talking to each other within the same bank. And so those are the things that we brought out. And I've got to say, probably over the last several months, we've seen the banks really start to step up, at least in Southern Nevada, to try to be more responsive and more helpful without us having to intervene.
Another frustration you mentioned is that current foreclosure programs have folks having to default on loans before they can qualify for help.
Right, and that's what you hear is from the person who says, look, I'm doing the right thing. I'm making my mortgage payment, but I'm getting to that point where I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it in the next 2 or 3 months. Is there something that's out there for me? Why? I don't want to ruin my credit. I don't want to not pay a mortgage payment for 3 months before somebody's willing to help me. And so we started to work with the banks to help those individuals as well. And
you want to lower the payment
success.
So they don't get behind in the first
exactly.
place, correct?
So a lot of it is trying to get them to refinance at today's lower interest rates. And we had a success story with an elderly couple, was able to decrease their mortgage payment by almost $500 a month. We just had another one where we got a principal write-down of over $170,000 written off the person's principal. But again, it's very difficult when you're dealing one-on-one, and the banks need to be more proactive to take care of these constituent needs on their own. You've
actually said that negative equity and being upside down is not the cause of folks losing their homes. It's that they cannot afford the payments.
Right, and that's what it comes down to is, there are folks that I guess, treat their house as an investment. And to them, it's more concerning to them that they're upside down in equity, not the fact that they are able to make the payment, they just don't want to because they're upside down. But really in Southern Nevada, the number one reason is loss of a job, loss of income. I can't make my payment. And so if we can get that monthly payment lower, that's the goal, getting that monthly payment lower so that people can stay in their homes.
Was it this hearing and learning the stuff that led to it, that led to your deciding to author the Second Chance Bill? How did that come about?
The Second Chance Bill came about because it was an unmet need that we heard from constituents who were calling the office, talking to my housing caseworker, saying, look, I've lost my home, but I'm back to work now and I'm paying rent, but I can't get a mortgage because I have this foreclosure on my credit report, but I'm ready to buy. And there was nothing available to help that individual. Now, just recently I attended a program put on by one of the major banks called Neighborhood Lift, and they are actually there helping people get back into homes, whether they're a first-time home buyer or not. and they're looking at whether or not they've had a foreclosure, and if that foreclosure was 2 years ago, they're actually forgiving it on their own.
That's a local program?
Local program through one of the major banks back in Las Vegas.
Great news. Okay, we're going to update you on the Hardest Hit Fund right after this.
Every day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada go to bed hungry every night. But you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Heads we go, tails we stay. A coin flip. That's how it all began for what is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Charlie Frias, with a can-do spirit and support of his loving wife Phyllis, bought ABC Union Cab in 1966. They then parlayed 5 cabs into a fleet of nearly 1,000. And today, Frias has over 2,000 employees and was recently voted Las Vegas's best company to work for. Frias, safe, reliable, simply the best.
When it comes to state-of-the-art energy, Nevada is the right state to be in. A reliable, efficient network. Cleaner energy resources like solar, wind, and geothermal. And technology that will help you save energy and money at home. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of my guest's work to help you save your home or get into another one. And we've been visiting with him, Nevada U.S. Congressman Joe Heck. Well, earlier this spring, the Special Inspector General for the Troubled Asset Relief Program said a fund created to support communities hardest hit by the housing crisis has given out just 3% of its budget in the 2 years since it was created. This Hardest Hit Fund was created in spring 2010 to provide money to state housing finance agencies that work to help folks facing foreclosure. Well, it's not giving much help. The report says the fund has given out just 3% and aided only 30,640 homeowners. It has spent just $217.4 million of a $7.6 billion budget. The report cites significant delay due to a lack of comprehensive planning by the Treasury Department, as well as only limited participation by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the large mortgage servicing companies. The fund was set up to help the 18 worst hit states. To get money, states had to meet conditions, including 20% decline in house prices and a high percentage of counties with unemployment rates above 12% or a state rate above the national average. Sounds like Nevada, written all over that. And while in recent days things are picking up regarding the disbursements, I'm sure that Nevadans in need are pretty discouraged about how small the percentage that's been used.
Sure, and I think it's indicative of how Washington tries to operate, unfortunately, is that, okay, there's a problem, throw money at it without really having a plan of how to utilize that money. And that's what we saw here with this Hardest Hit Fund. You know, on paper, it sounds great. Let's give some additional federal dollars to those areas hit the hardest by the housing crisis. But if you don't have a plan in place to get it to those people who need it, it sits here and does absolutely nothing.
You know, at the time that you voted in favor of the hardest hit fund, I remember that you said you're generally against the more and more taxpayer funded programs. But in Nevada's case, it was a whole different type of case with the foreclosure and the housing crisis out there. Are you discouraged that the fund help's been so slow in coming?
Well, certainly, because we continue to suffer from the highest foreclosure rates in the country. And while Arizona may have taken our place last month, the fact is the reason why they took our place is because of a law passed by the Nevada legislature, which slowed down the foreclosure process. And so it's really a false sense of a foreclosure abatement. And I think we'll be back at the top, unfortunately, in the not too distant future. So we need to be able to take those programs that have been put up and have been funded to help people stay in their home and get back into their homes. And if we're going to use that money, then we need to make sure there's a plan to flow it out to those who need it.
Is there something, in your opinion, is something needs to happen with the administration and the Congress to encourage better leadership by the Treasury Department? Is there a problem here? Is it that the mortgage servicers are not participating and are not being pushed to participate?
Well, I think that's also a very big piece of it, is that there's no requirement that, and nor should there be, that any lender has to participate. It's there if a lender does want to participate. But I think at this point it's coming down to where we're not going to be able to expend that money, and it should probably just revert back to the general fund because we're having such a hard time putting out a plan that allows that money to get to the individuals that can benefit from it.
So although the Inspector General blamed not enough participation by Fannie and Freddie, not enough by the larger mortgage servicers, and no effort by the Fed to use its influence, as you said, really shouldn't get them to participate, what else can be done to help them participate in these state-managed institutions?
Well, I think what we're seeing now is that, and what I've seen over the last couple of months, is that the private institutions are really stepping up on their own. I mentioned the one program, the Neighborhood Lift, went to another bank that put in a huge customer service center with mortgage and credit counselors to try to help people now in advance in a proactive way, because they've heard the cries from their constituents and from members of Congress saying you're not being responsive enough. But one of the big areas that's still concerning are the Fannie and Freddie loans, which are backed by the taxpayer. And we've got to figure out how to get the taxpayer off the hook for those loans, while making Fannie and Freddie work within these programs to help people stay in their homes.
You know, as we're wrapping up this segment, what can a Nevadan who's either in foreclosure, facing foreclosure, they're going to reach out to Congressman Heck's office. What's going to be offered there?
Well, what we normally do is when somebody contacts us, we'll put them in touch with our housing caseworker. We actually hired a real estate agent to be our housing caseworker because we needed somebody who knew the business. We'll get a personal information release form signed by them so that we can request their records. Then she will go over that and their personal situation and see what programs are available that they might qualify for. Okay. If there is no program, we will help work that person with the bank to see if there's something that can be done on a one-on-one basis.
And also at www.heck.house.org.
That's right, heck.house.gov.
Or .gov. I'm sorry about that. There's a lot of housing help there as well. Okay, we'll be right back with our mailbag segment right after this.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
Built on a fleet of just 5 cabs bought in 1966 by founder Charlie Frias, Frias Transportation is now Nevada's largest transportation provider. Today, Frias has a fleet of nearly 1,000 vehicles and more than 2,000 employees. As an industry and community leader, Frias continues to create the future of transportation technology and management and actively supports the community, continuing the legacy of quality service in the Las Vegas Valley. Simply the best. Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
So, I got this new family, and I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy all day long. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, and she even talks to it. She talks to that more than she talks to him. What's up, bro? Nice shirt. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
And we're back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. It is our mailbag segment. In this segment, we tell you about an issue that the Congressional Mailbag page of the Joyce Communication website has been getting a lot of correspondence about. We read one of your letters on the air, and we invite our guests to respond to you right here. And Congressman, you've been getting some letters about cybersecurity. This was interesting. I have a letter here from Josie L. of Laughlin, who writes, Dear Congressman Heck, are there concerns about the security of classified information when it's passed to private companies under the new Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act? What do you respond to, Josie? I know you're very involved in this topic.
Well, no, there's no concern in the sharing of the information. That was the reason for this bill. Obviously, the government has certain classified information that we use to protect our networks. What we want to do is be able to share that with the private sector so that they can protect their networks.
Give us a sentence on the bill itself, what the bill does.
Well, the bill is an information sharing bill. It goes two ways. It allows the government to share our information with private sector to be able to protect their networks that have your information on it, your credit card number, your social security number. And it also allows them to send evidence or information about the attacks that they're seeing to us, to the government, so that the government can better find a way to try to avert those attacks. Now, it's important to know that there's no sharing of anybody's personal information between the government and these private sector agencies. It's just an ability to share information regarding cyber threats so that the information we have can be used to better protect you and on the private networks.
And you're a big supporter of this bill?
I am. I was a co-sponsor through the Intelligence Committee.
What's the situation now without that bill?
Well, right now we know that we're being attacked every day, not just on the government side, but also on private industry side. We're having intellectual property stolen right from out from underneath us. Identity theft occurs. And so this is the opportunity to put in place the strictest cybersecurity protocols that the government has developed for ourselves and allow the private sector to use them to protect your personal information as well.
And bottom line is Josie does not need to worry.
She does not.
Sounds great. Thanks for being here today on this.
My pleasure.
That does wrap up this week's Eye on Washington. And you know, you can send a letter to one of Nevada's senators or House members. You can go to the mailbag page of our website at joycecommunications.com. Check out more federal issues that impact Nevada while you're there. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Thanks for joining us today on Eye on Washington. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington, D.C. Have a great day.